Ladies and gentlemen, every morning presents us with a fresh page, a clean slate upon which the story of our lives is written anew. The sun rises, the world awakens, and with it, we are given another opportunity to choose how we will live, think, and act. Yet in the rush of schedules, responsibilities, and endless distractions, many step into their day without pausing to ask a crucial question. Where am I being led today? The truth is, no matter how skilled, intelligent, or experienced we may be, each of us faces uncertainties, moments when our own strength is not enough and our own wisdom falls short. This is why seeking God's direction every morning is not only an act of faith, but an act of clarity and wisdom. Consider how easily a day can spiral out of control when we walk blindly into it. Stress builds up, unexpected challenges arise, and suddenly our decisions are reactive rather than intentional. But when we begin our morning by turning our hearts upward, asking for guidance, we shift the foundation of our entire day. Instead of being driven by fear or pressure, we move forward with peace, knowing we are not walking alone. Seeking God's direction is not about expecting every problem to vanish, but about gaining the strength to handle them with wisdom and calm. Just as a traveler would not begin a long journey without consulting a map, so too should we not begin our day without first aligning ourselves with the one who sees the path ahead. There is a deep significance in starting early before the noise of the day takes over. Morning is the hour of clarity, the moment when the mind is still unburdened by the weight of problems and distractions. When we seek God in those early hours, we set the tone for everything that follows. We are, in essence, handing over the steering wheel and saying, "Lead me where I need to go, even if it is not where I planned." This act of surrender brings an unusual kind of strength, for when we no longer rely solely on our limited vision, we gain access to a wisdom far greater than our own. It is easy, of course, to depend on our own logic. We wake up with plans, to-do lists, and goals we want to accomplish. But how many times have those plans been interrupted by circumstances beyond our control? How often have the things we thought would bring us joy left us empty instead? Seeking God's direction each morning is like inviting light into a darkened room. Suddenly, what was hidden becomes visible. What seemed overwhelming becomes manageable. We begin to see not only what lies ahead, but also how to face it with grace. And perhaps most importantly, seeking God's direction reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. Life often places heavy burdens on our shoulders. Financial worries, broken relationships, health challenges, or the simple exhaustion of daily living. But when the first act of our day is to reach for divine strength, we discover a peace that anchors us, even when the storm rages. We realize that our value does not come from how much we accomplish, but from the one who walks with us. And in that realization, the anxieties that once ruled our mornings begin to lose their grip. So, ladies and gentlemen, the importance of seeking God's guidance each morning cannot be overstated. It is more than ritual, more than habit. It is preparation for the battles, opportunities, and decisions that await us. It is the difference between wandering aimlessly and walking with purpose. And when we begin each day by asking for direction, we are not only shaping the next 24 hours, we are shaping the very course of our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, seeking God's direction each morning is not only a matter of belief, but also of practice. Too often, we hear about the importance of beginning the day with faith, yet many still wonder, how do I actually do this in a way that is real and practical? The truth is that seeking divine guidance does not require elaborate rituals or hours of study. It is about simple, intentional steps that align our hearts and minds with a higher wisdom before we step into the demands of life. Just as a seed requires sunlight and water to grow, our spirit requires daily nourishment through connection, reflection, and gratitude. One of the most effective ways to seek direction is through prayer. Prayer does not have to be complicated. It is not about the length of our words, but the sincerity of our hearts. The very act of pausing in the morning and saying, "Guide me today," opens the door for clarity to enter. It shifts our focus away from ourselves and onto the one who sees the bigger picture. In those quiet moments, when distractions have not yet consumed us, prayer acts as a compass pointing us toward peace. It can be a simple prayer for wisdom in making decisions, patience in dealing with others, or strength to face challenges. What matters is not the formality of the words, but the humility to ask for guidance. Another practical way is through reflection. Taking just a few minutes in the morning to read a verse, a passage of wisdom, or even an uplifting thought can transform how we think for the rest of the day. What we feed our minds first often sets the tone for everything else. If we begin with anxiety, we carry it with us. But if we begin with words that remind us of hope, courage, and truth, our mindset becomes anchored. Reflection is like tuning an instrument before playing. Without it, the music of our day is out of harmony. By reflecting each morning, we align ourselves with values that remind us of who we are and what truly matters. Gratitude also plays a vital role in seeking direction. Before we chase after what we want, we must recognize what we already have. Gratitude grounds us, reminding us that even in struggles, blessings remain. When we begin the morning with thankfulness, our perspective changes. Problems may still exist, but they no longer dominate our vision. Instead, we see possibilities, solutions, and opportunities. Gratitude opens the heart, softens the worries, and allows room for guidance to be received. It is like clearing away the clutter so that wisdom has a place to dwell. Seeking direction also means aligning our choices with our values. Each day, we face countless decisions. What to prioritize, how to treat others, what goals to pursue. Without direction, it is easy to drift into habits that may bring temporary comfort, but no lasting fulfillment. When we intentionally pause in the morning to ask, what would honor my values today? What actions will bring light instead of darkness? We begin to make decisions with purpose. This alignment not only keeps us steady, but also helps us avoid regrets later. It is the difference between reacting impulsively and responding with clarity. And let us not forget the power of silence. In a world filled with noise, the discipline of sitting quietly, even for a few minutes, allows us to listen. Too often, we speak in prayer, but never pause to hear the response. Silence is not emptiness. It is space for answers to unfold. It is in those moments of stillness that clarity often comes, not as a booming voice, but as a gentle nudge in the heart. Silence teaches us to slow down, to recognize that direction is not always found in rushing, but in waiting. So, ladies and gentlemen, seeking God's direction daily is a practical journey made up of small but powerful steps. Prayer to open our hearts, reflection to shape our minds, gratitude to shift our perspective, alignment to guide our choices, and silence to hear what is often missed. When practiced consistently, these steps become more than habits. They become a way of life. They allow us to walk into each day not aimlessly, but with the assurance that we are being led towards something greater than ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about seeking God's direction each morning, it is natural to ask, what difference does it truly make? The answer lies not only in the small shifts of our daily lives, but in the larger transformation of our character, our relationships, and our destiny. Every morning we choose to align ourselves with divine wisdom. We set in motion changes that ripple outward, shaping the way we think, act, and live. Over time, those choices accumulate into a life that is not merely endured, but lived with purpose and fulfillment. One of the most profound impacts of seeking direction each day is the way it influences our decision making. Life constantly demands choices, some small, like how we speak to someone in passing, and others monumental, like career paths, relationships, or investments. Without guidance, we can easily be swayed by emotion, fear, or pressure from others. But when we have already begun the day grounded in prayer, reflection, and gratitude, our decisions carry greater clarity. We are less likely to be driven by impulse and more likely to act with patience and wisdom. Over time, this consistency shapes a path of stability and integrity, and we find ourselves avoiding pitfalls that once seemed inevitable. Another transformation that occurs is within our relationships. Human connections are delicate. They can be strengthened with kindness or fractured with a single harsh word. By seeking God's direction in the morning, we enter the day with a mindset of patience and humility. We become more conscious of how we treat those around us, family, coworkers, strangers, and even those who may oppose us. Instead of reacting with anger or pride, we learn to respond with grace. The result is stronger, healthier relationships built on respect and compassion. When our hearts are aligned at the start of the day, we carry that alignment into every interaction, and it becomes evident to those around us. People notice the difference when someone lives with peace rather than chaos. In addition, seeking direction transforms how we face challenges. No life is free of hardship, illness, financial struggles, loss, and disappointments come to all. The question is not whether difficulties will arrive, but how we will endure them. Those who begin their day by seeking God's guidance discover a strength beyond themselves. They do not crumble under the weight of trials because they know they are not facing them alone. This does not mean the pain disappears, but it does mean they walk with resilience, courage, and hope. The very act of aligning with divine wisdom each morning prepares the heart to endure storms with faith rather than fear. Perhaps one of the most overlooked yet powerful transformations is the sense of purpose that unfolds. Many people wander through life feeling empty even when they achieve success by worldly standards. They accomplish goals, earn wealth, or gain recognition, yet still feel an ache within. But those who daily seek God's direction find that their lives gain a deeper meaning. They begin to see themselves as part of a larger story, their actions woven into a greater plan. Purpose gives them energy to rise each morning with expectation rather than dread, to see obstacles not as barriers but as lessons, and to embrace opportunities not just for personal gain, but for serving others. Over time, these daily choices create a character that reflects integrity, humility, and faith. Imagine the person you could become if every day began with intentionality, if every step was guided by wisdom greater than your own. Little by little, that person emerges. The one who is steadfast in trials, gracious in relationships, wise in decisions, and filled with peace that cannot be shaken. This is not an overnight transformation. It is the slow, steady shaping of a life lived in alignment with God's direction. So, ladies and gentlemen, the impact of seeking guidance each morning is far-reaching. It is the foundation of better choices, stronger relationships, resilience in trials, and a life rich with purpose. And while it begins with something as simple as a few quiet moments at the start of the day, the results are anything but small. They are life-changing. Each morning becomes a new opportunity to be transformed, to walk not in confusion, but in clarity, not in fear, but in faith. And in time, those mornings string together into a life that not only finds direction, but also becomes a source of light and inspiration for others. Ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this message to a close, remember this. Every morning you are given a gift, the gift of a new beginning, the gift of choice, the gift of direction. You can walk into the day on your own, relying only on limited strength, or you can walk into it with clarity, peace, and guidance that goes far beyond what you could ever achieve alone. Each sunrise is more than just light breaking the darkness. It is an invitation to seek wisdom before confusion sets in, an invitation to choose peace before stress takes over, an invitation to align yourself with a purpose greater than your own. And when you begin each day this way, your steps are steadier, your mind is clearer, and your heart is stronger. So I urge you, do not waste your mornings. Do not step into the day unprepared. Instead, rise with intention, seek direction, and let that guidance shape not only your decisions, but also your destiny. For when you start your mornings with God's direction, you are not just preparing for the day ahead. You are building the foundation of a life filled with peace, purpose, and unshakable strength. Thank you, and may every morning lead you closer to the life you were meant to live.